Iona, how are you?
Butch, I'm great.
Good to see you, dear.
So nice to see you.
How's everything?
That's great. Even better now you've made it.
Ah, thanks for coming all the way over to see us.
It's my pleasure, and I'm very much looking forward to this.
And guess what? We have sun here in Las Vegas.
I brought this all the way from Scotland.
I doubt it.
Bitch.
Go easy on me now, girl.
I mean, let's take it from the top.
All right.
This life, 80 years of it you've had, and it's been a cracker so far. It's kind of tough to know where to begin, but like many good stories, I think we should just start at the beginning and just take us back to, you know, Butch as a young boy and how you came to be in this world.
You know, growing up in our family, in the Harmon family, you know, obviously our dad won the Masters in 1948, and there's 4 boys in the family, and we all became very successful golf pros. And people say to me all the time, boy, your dad must have really pushed you in golf. And I said, no, not at all. If we didn't want to play, he didn't care. If you played, he needed help. But myself, I was a really good athlete when I was in high school, so I played all sports and just played golf in the summer. Mm-hmm. And it was just, we were around it our whole life. It's really the only thing that any of us really know how to do because we've spent our whole life in it. But you know, when you had the opportunity as a kid to grow up at Winged Foot and Seminole, where my dad was the pro at both courses, one in the summer, one in the winter, and his best friend was Ben Hogan, and he was always over our house having dinner when events were in New York. And as kids, we were always around him, and we were around the great players. And I don't think it took me till I was about 35 or 40 to really appreciate what I had seen in my whole life, because I never used to think about it. And I know that sounds arrogant, but that was just how we grew up, you know. And I played golf with Mr. Hogan when I was 16 years old.
Incredible.
Tommy Armour and Craig Wood were members at Winged Foot. I grew up as a kid playing golf with them. Wow. I mean, so, and then, you know, and I would go to all these tournaments with my dad. I started when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and to the majors, because Mom had 10 pregnancies and there's 6 kids, and there was no ropes in those days, so you just walked down the fairways with the players. I mean, I'm 8, 9, 10 years old, standing in the middle of the fairway at a major, we're just watching my dad hit his shot, and he played all his practice rounds with Ben Hogan and all the greats, and so I saw that as a kid. And I told you a story earlier about that I used to caddy when I was younger. That's kind of how I learned about golf. Caddy for my dad in the summer, and he played every day, and he was playing golf with Ben Hogan once at Winged Foot. And then on the 8th hole at the West Course, long par 4, well, not for today's standards, but back in the day. And he hit the ball just in the right rough, and I remember seeing him take this 4-wood and open it wide up and chop down this thing and hit this most unbelievable shot from about 220 yards away that went up in the air with a fade, landed short of the green, rolled up to about 15 feet of the hole. And I was caddying, I think I was 16 or something. I'm looking at that, I said, how the hell did he do that? So what would happen at the end of the day, my dad would teach in the morning, have lunch, always play in the afternoon, and then teach in the evening. So we got done, when I got done caddying, Dad would go teach. I just take my club and I went right to that spot. And threw a bunch of balls down, found the divot, took my 4-wood, opened it up the same way, and kept hitting these shots. So I saw Ben Hogan do it. How do I do it? And I had a whole existence of a kid like that I didn't realize the education I was getting at the time. And as I said earlier, I know it sounds arrogant, but this is just how we grew up. We didn't know any different. This is just kind of the way we were in our family. And when my dad was, anytime there was tournaments in the New York area, all the best players in the world be over the house barbecuing, because Dad loved to barbecue, and you know, we were listening to him talk and listening to all these great players talk. And so it was an experience that you would pay millions of dollars to have, and we got it for nothing and didn't even realize we were getting it.
Wow. One thing I noticed about you, Butch, and I have only had the honor of knowing you a few years, but I very rarely see someone leave your company not smiling.
Well, I like to have fun.
But on the rate, I mean, you could be in the most serious of environments, and there are some pretty intense environments in golf, especially at major championships, you know. could hear a pin drop in some of these places, and then you will arrive, and it's like it's like you just cut the tension with a knife, and everybody just relaxes.
I think it's just my personality. Like I said, I like people. I like being around people. You learn better when you're having fun. There's no doubt about it. Your life is better. The more you laugh, the longer you're going to live.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people can be so upset all the time. You know, as we learned as kids, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice to people. It'll pay you dividends your whole life, and you got to work at being a jerk. And we know a lot of people work hard at being a jerk. And a lot of what you're talking about happens in major championships, and you have to realize with my players, we've done our work before we got there. The Masters is the easiest one to get ready for because it's always on the same course. So if you have to change shot shapes and trajectories, it's easy to do. Mm-hmm. So once we get to the tournament, I'm just trying to get the guys relaxed. That's why I'm always kidding around with them on the range because, you know, they're uptight and they're like a horse in the starting gate. They're anxious and they want to go and they're getting frustrated. And I'll just tell them a joke out of nowhere. Yeah. Some off-color joke that you would never think anybody tell on a practice field. People will say to me all the time, we don't understand this Butch Harmon guy, why everybody thinks he's such a good coach. Look at me, all he does is tell jokes to these guys. He's got them laughing. I'm getting them relaxed. Yeah. I'm trying to get them relaxed. I'll say something stupid. I'll make fun of myself and they'll look at me and say, yeah, no shit, that's you. You know? And all of a sudden, yeah, I got them now. I got them a little more relaxed. Now they can go through their process of doing what we're trying to do. We've already done the mechanical work before we get there, so I'm just trying to get them relaxed and ready to play. And as you know, you've been around me enough, I like to have fun. Mm-hmm. Life's hard. There's a lot of hard times. I enjoy myself. I have fun. I'm like a little kid. I'm an 80-year-old little kid. As I say all the time, I'm about 15 mentally. I tell Christy that. I'll say, well, I'm about 15 mentally. She goes, oh, you had a birthday. I thought you were 14 mentally, you know, because I have the greatest wife in the world. Because you talk about somebody who can put me in my place. She always says to me, when you leave the house, you can go be the goat. When you come home, no, you're behind me, you're behind Cole, you're behind the dog. So you just sit in your chair and you just.
That's it. She sounds perfect for you.
Oh, she is perfect.
You met your match
me.
there.
No, and that's the best part about it. That's why my life is so good.
Yeah. I think the driving range is a fascinating place to exist. You know, I really want to talk about the Tiger years. I want to talk about other players you've coached, but I want to talk about the driving range because you've spent years on a driving range. You spent your life there, and it's a really unique place to exist.
I think just knowing the players like I know them, knowing what buttons to push, when I need to push the button, when I need not to push the button. As you'll notice, you know, this will air long after the Masters, but with the Masters coming up in a week, I mean, I walk down the range, I'll say hi to everybody.
Right.
But I work with a guy and hey, how you doing? I said, hey, nice playing last week. You know,
Yeah.
Then I'll go to my guys and kid around, but that's my office. And I like an environment of fun in my office. I like with all the guys, like I told them, you know, they know I'm kidding, but they also. And that's just how I am. I like having a good time. I think I've been through a lot of hard times in my life. I like the good times better. I learned that the hard times are bad and they were 100% my fault, so I'm not doing that anymore. The range is a different place. Do you realize that caddies probably spend more time with the players than their wives do? Because they travel with them. They're with them on the golf course all the time. And caddies today are all players. Most of these guys that are caddies either played college golf, mini tour golf, and some of them even tried to play the tour, and some of them did play the tour. But they're all pretty good players, and you can see how they are and how professional they are. And so it's a different environment out there today. So I deal a lot with the caddies. Like all my players, I have all the caddies' phone numbers. And if I see something on TV or if they play a bad round, I call a caddy first.
Right.
I'll say, tell me what you saw today, because you're standing right next to the guy. Let me know what you saw. And why did you hit this shot on such and such a hole? I saw you guys talking. Why did you choose to hit this shot this way? And then it didn't pull it off. So I'll talk to the caddies first, then I'll talk to the player. And because I pretty much helped these guys build their swings, I know their swings so good, they can actually call me on the telephone, even if they don't text me their swings, and say, God, I drove the ball terrible today. All right, what kind of shots were you hitting? Where did your ball start? Well, my ball started here. And I said, okay, for you, when the ball starts there, you're X, Y, Z. This is what you do. So when you go to the range, tomorrow, this is what I want you to work on, and boom, they'll go play good.
What was it like when Tiger walked onto the driving range?
Oh my gosh, it was like, I wouldn't compare it to God because I'm not that religious, but it was just, he was the man.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time, who's the greatest player, Jack or Tiger? And my answer is always the same. Jack is the greatest champion that's ever played golf. 18 majors is great. How about 13 seconds? How about 14 thirds? The guy could have won 35 majors. I said, do you realize that for like 15 or 20 years or more, every major he played in, he had a chance to win. So he's the greatest champion. I said, Tiger Woods is the greatest player. No one's ever done what he's done. Winning US Opens by 15 shots, British by 8, 10 shots. That's just never been done before. He completely took over golf. As he used to like to say, I know that they know that I know they can't beat me. And that was a fact, they couldn't. I mean, when he was on, you couldn't beat him. The only way you could beat Tiger is he might have an off week. You know, when you talk about, what has he got now, 15, 16 majors, I think. Who knows, 80 something wins, but how about 142 cuts in a row? That's beyond belief. That's like 7 years of playing golf and never missing a cut. I think who's ever leading now has got about 20. Well, they got about 5 years to go to get that. That just shows you how good he was.
Yeah.
The other thing that Tiger had, yes, he had God-given talent, and he worked. Is the one thing I'll tell you about the best players in the world, and I've had two of them I took to #1. They were there for a long time, Greg Norman and Tiger Woods, and they outworked everybody.
Right.
They worked harder than everybody. That's because they wanted to stay there. Some guys get to #1, they can't handle it. They can't handle the pressure of the interviews, of all the stuff, and they don't like it. David Duval was like that, I think, because he was really good, but he didn't feel comfortable with that. I'm not sure Scotty Scheffler's learned how to deal with it yet. Now it seems to be #1 by committee. One guy holds it for a while, and then another guy. But when Tiger walked on the range, he commanded the range. Wow. When Tiger would start practicing, other players would stop and watch him. I know in my years that with Tiger, players would come up to him early in the week and say, do you mind if I film you? Because they were all trying to film his swing and wanted to see it on film. And he'd say, no, I don't care, go ahead.
Really?
You know, whatever you want to do, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just don't bother me while I'm practicing. The amazing thing about Tiger, and I learned this when he was a teenager when I worked with him, he won 3 USGA juniors and 3 USA amateurs. So 6 years in a row, he won a national title. What you don't know is every one of the final matches went to the last hole or beyond, and he won every one of them.
Wow.
Now, he can't tell you how he was going to win them, but right here, he knew he was going to win them. And I think the guy he was playing knew that he was going to. I mean, look at some of the comebacks against Steve Scott to win the third one. He's 5 down at the end of 18 holes. The other one he won at TPC was like 7 down at one time and came back and won. So you can't teach that. That's in here, and he had it. He had whatever it is, he had it. He had the ability to get in people's heads. Not that he was trying to, but he was in there because he was so good. He had the ability to, when they would see him coming up the leaderboard on Sunday, if he wasn't at the top, all of a sudden they'd go, oh my God, here he comes. Birdie, birdie, birdie. And they would go this way. He'd go right by him.
Yeah.
And he had that effect on the best players in the world. It's like I said, that saying that he used to say, he says, I know that they know that I know I'm better than they are, and I'm going to kick their butt.
Yeah.
And I had people tell me in the run we had for 10 years, said, you know, he's made golf boring. I said, are you kidding me? You're witnessing history here. Can you see what this guy's doing?
Yeah.
Can you not appreciate the greatness of this person in his sport? If he was Tom Brady or something and the best quarterback ever, you'd be loving it. You're saying he's making the game boring. No, he's making the game fascinating because he's so good. I don't think we'll ever see one person dominate again the way he did.
Really?
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
There's more good young players now than there used to be, but he was just so much better than everyone else. And as far as the coaching part with him, whatever he wasn't good at, he would make himself good at because we would work at it.
Right.
Like he couldn't spin his wedges at all. We worked and worked, and I would have him at tournaments play golf with Olazabal and Ballesteros and Norman in the practice rounds and stuff, and I'd ask him questions and how do you do this? And he was like a sponge. He soaked up information. And then he would put his own adaptation to it, the only way he would do it, and that's why he didn't have a weakness. If I ever needed him to do something, and I didn't think I was getting through to him, and this is true with most of the guys I teach, I'll challenge him. I'll say, well, we need to do this, but I don't think you can do it, so we'll try. What do you mean I can't do it? That's why I'm not sure you can do it. You've been trying for 10 minutes, you can't, so let's move on. No. The perfect example with Tiger, we were playing a match play at La Costa one year, and we were working on hitting high fade 3-iron shots on the range. It was a terrible range. It was only like 240 yards long and fences. At the end of the range on the right side, there was an opening where the Jeep would come out to pick up the balls. So we were working on this high 3-iron shot, just trying to hit a little bleedy fade, and he wasn't quite getting it. So I said, I'm gonna get him. So I took a $100 bill out of my pocket. I put it on the ground, and I put 5 balls on top of it. I said, because he loved money. I said, you see that right there? That says you cannot hit a ball through that fence down there with a hyphen. Very first shot. Beautiful high cut right through it. It was like this, right in the pocket.
No way.
Best 100 I ever spent. He won the match play.
Unbelievable. You've coached Tiger Woods. A lot of people want to hear about the nuts and bolts, and we could have a whole show on that alone if we could talk about that for hours. You've also coached some of the other greatest golfers. You mentioned Greg Norman, Phil Mickelson. On the ladies' side, you've had some of the greatest as well, Suzanne Petterson. The list goes on. And we've got this wonderful array of your CV behind us, all these flags with, the major championships, some other very special championships. I want to know what you're most proud of, Butch, in your career so far.
I think what I said earlier, I'm very proud that everybody that has come to me pretty much was better when they left than when they showed up. And that's all I can do as a coach. It's no different than your instructors in school or university, your professors you had, when you learned they were better, when you left as a better student, they're very proud of that. And I'm very proud of that fact. I've had the opportunity to be around the best players in the world, but I told you this before and I'll say it again, I learned as much from these guys as they learned from me. And then I pass that on to the next person and what I've learned from them. And I've always been an open book about learning. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to watch the best players in the world. I want to see how they do. I'll tell you an example. Many years ago, had to be maybe in the 80s. I was at Augusta following Tom Watson. I can't remember who else I was playing with. It must have been somebody that I liked because that's why I was out there walking with him. Second hole, when the tee was up further than it is now, Watson drove it on the downslope past the bunker. Pin was in the back left corner, and he's got a fairly long iron. I'm looking at it from the side. I'm going to guess it's a 3 or 4 iron, but he's off a severe downhill lie, which the second fairway has. He hit off of this lie the most beautiful high draw I've ever seen in my life that just turned right back to the pin about 10, 12 feet from the flag. And I was standing over there like this, and I'm saying to myself, how in the world did he do that?
Yeah.
Off of this lie?
Yeah.
And so for me, I loved watching great players hit great shots under pressure. Because I'm standing there and I'm watching this with my own eyes and I'm thinking, there's no way he can get at this flag because you got to cut it off that line just to get it airborne. I mean, this thing started up here with the prettiest draw and it never left the flag. And I remember, I forget about a friend of mine, we were walking around, I said, did you just see what he did?
Yeah.
I said, how the hell did he do that?
Wow.
They said, what do you mean? I said, you can't do what he just did.
Yeah.
I said, you can't teach that. That's God-given talent and the belief of what you could do. And I've had the opportunity to see a shot like that 500 times in my life from the best players in the world.
Is there one that stands out?
Oh, and it's just, you never forget them.
Yeah. Is that the shot that stands out, or is there another?
That's that one. Greg, when he won the Open at Royal St. George's the second time, he shot 64 on Sunday in a 25-mile-an-hour when he started one back of Faldo and won by 2 or 3. But a couple things happened during that round. I forget who he was playing with. I think it was Langer. It was Langer. And the 14th hole at Royal St. George's, the OB stakes are actually in the fairway if you've ever played there. And it's blowing 25. And it's in a left to right wind. And Langer hit it out of bounds. And I'm standing down the fairway, I'm thinking, oh man, Shark, you can't, I hope you did. He hit the most beautiful draw right back into this wind and hit it on the green, made birdie.
Wow.
And on 17, he's got the lead. and he putts down to about this far. And he was going to finish, but he didn't know if he'd be in Bernard's line, and then Bernard screwed around with everything, and he messed around with it, and then Greg finally missed it. Oh. Now, he still had a 2-shot lead playing the last hole. Last hole at at Royal St. George's Hartle. He had a great drive. He hit a 4-iron into the green. This thing never left the flag. This 4-iron was a bullet to about 12 feet right behind the hole. I'll never forget that shot. Phil, when he won at Muirfield, great last round in terrible conditions. He hit a second shot on the last hole. I think it was with a 4 or 5 iron too. It was just unbelievable. He chased 2 shots on the green on 17 because he drove with a 3-wood to miss the bunkers, and then hit a low screaming hook that must have rolled 70 yards up on the green, 2-putted to birdie to take the lead. But then the second shot he hit to the last hole to ice it. I mean, the pin was in that back left corner, and I mean, he hit it about 12 feet behind and hold it. And I've always remembered those kind of shots that I've seen guys hit under extreme pressure. As I told you earlier, I think for me, I get a joy out of watching great players hit great shot under pressure, because I tried to play. And I know it's not easy when you know the whole world's looking at you and the weight on your shoulders. And these guys make it look easy, and it isn't. And I marvel at what they can do. And you, as a person who tried to play and stuff, you see people hit shots, go, man, how did he do that? You know, how in the world did this guy do that? And sometimes that's just talent. Some guys got it, some guys don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
No coach will tell you something to try and mess you up.
No.
What they think they're doing is right, but unfortunately, if they don't understand the person they're dealing with, the level of golf they play at, the strengths, the flexibilities, all the generational things that people talk about now, it can be a problem. And that's why guys get messed up. And in this day and age, with all the young instructors that I've noticed, I mean, they're so enamored with technology and launch monitors and everything. You know, when we learned to teach, there was no cameras, there was no launch monitors. The ball pretty much tells you everything you need. Where the ball starts, the spin on the ball, the curvature on the ball pretty much tells you the path of the club and the club face at impact. Hit that fat, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's how we learned how to teach. Today, you know, I watch some of these younger instructors, and they don't even watch the guys swing or watch the ball. They go right to the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think all that stuff is good, but it's not the end all. And it's different for everybody. Somebody asked me the other day, my father having not been not only a great player, I think was the greatest instructor of all time, and the two most influential people in my teaching were John Jacobs and my dad.
Right.
Both of them were path and club face.
Okay.
And the guy said to me, so, Mr. Harmon, what would your father think of launch monitors? I said, oh my God, I wish he was alive, because you would love the answer. I could just hear my dad. He would call everybody pal. He'd say, hey pal, let me explain something. You see that machine right there? You see it right there? Never hit a shot. That machine's never hit a shot. It has no idea how to hit one. Spitting out numbers, throwing numbers out. This isn't a math class, this is golf. See that scorecard? There's a box, you put a number in it. Does that machine know what that number needs to be? Hell no. And he says at tour level, can you imagine coming down the stretch on Sunday and you got a chance to win your first tournament, and you know the red light on that camera is burning a hole in your forehead? You think that machine's gonna help you because it doesn't know what kind of adrenaline you have through your body? And I said, well, that would be an old school way of talking it. Someone said to me once, when they said, Mr. Harmon, we understand that you're old school and you don't use technology. I said, no, we use technology at our golf school all the time. We use launch monitors, we use cameras. I said, actually, when I teach, I use 2 launch monitors. What kind? I said, they're right here, these 2 blue things, my eyes. I can tell you if you're spinning it too much. And so I think that in instruction and in playing, people need to get back to hitting golf shots.
Yeah.
Not in being a robot trying to play by the numbers. Okay, take a set up. I'll show you something. We'll go in the studio in a few minutes, and I'll help you. Okay, just slowly make a backswing for me. There you go. Got to get this back a little more. Do that again. Slowly make a backswing. There you go. You turn your shoulders, but you kind of restrict your hip turn to here.
Right.
Okay? So that causes you to hang a little on the left side, because we want the club, the weight always has to go in the direction the club goes. So when we go back, we want to turn into the inside part of our right leg and get wound up, because we can't unwind something we don't wound up.
Yeah.
And you know how you say, because you're fast, you get around and the club gets behind me. Well, a lot of times you get quick and you change your direction and don't finish your wind up, and that's why you get in this position. So if you can feel like on the backswing, you're taking your chest and putting it over your right knee, your hips will naturally turn, and then you got more to hit it with.
Interesting. I think I've been so scared of getting stuck over here that I almost didn't want to go over there.
And it's not their swaying, we're just turning into the right leg with a bigger hip turn. That was nice. That a girl.
Wow.
And I'll show you that on film when we go inside.
Okay.
Perfect example of someone who almost ruined his career by not making a hip turn was Jason Day.
Right.
Think about his swing. He turned his whole upper body and none of this moved, and he's had back problems forever. Well, his instructor, Chris Como, who's a good friend of mine, who I really like, has really got him making a better turn now, which has taken all the pressure off the back, and now he's playing good again. See what we got here.
Can I go?
Yes, you can go. Oh, too much spin, 3,800. Way too much spin.
Okay.
Big turn going back. Yeah, and really go forward.
That sideways.
Spinning the hell out of that thing. Hit this just for the heck of it. This is only 8 degrees. I'm just curious to see the difference.
Got forward better on that. Woo! 240 carry.
Yeah. I gotta help you with your equipment, girl.
Yeah, well, I know.
Oh.
Gotta go. I have to get that right side through. Otherwise.
27, that's better.
Yep.
I like short. You know, when Tiger and Greg when I took them both to #1 for all those years, you know how long their drivers were? 43 3/4. Steel shafted. Both of them. Yeah. Because see, if you get up to 45, if the club gets a little trapped behind you, you can't get there. At 44 or 43 3/4, you got a chance to still get in the club back to the ball. Everybody went to longer to try and get more distance, but if you get it caught behind you, you can't get there. And that creates backing up, and we don't want that. I want you going forward. I'm very impressed with this 8, although I've got it hooked just a little, so it's probably closer to 8.5. You're still getting good height with it. Yeah. Because this thing was hitting balloon balls.
Yeah.
3,800 spin, that's a wedge spin.
Right.
We don't want that with a driver. Ooh.
Okay.
That's 234 in the air.
It's unbelievable. And that's a shorter shaft.
Yeah. Imagine that.
It's unbelievable.
How'd that happen?
That is so good.
All right, big wind up and then go.
Bit quick in the transition.
Yeah, not bad though, 230. Oh, that's killed. 237. Let's look at that on film. It's not bad. Head's releasing, you're following it out. Spine's back a little more than I'd like to see it, but still look at the release of the head. Remember how much you hung it back? That's good.
Were these guys, Ben Hogan, were they admired and respected as the superstars that we look back on them as at the time?
I would say yes. Mr. Hogan was a very misunderstood person because he was an introvert and he didn't feel comfortable around people he didn't know. And so he came across as not a very nice person or a gruff person because he was that way, but he wasn't that way at all with us because we grew up with him. Mm. I mean, when I first went on the tour in '69, I played Ben Hogan golf equipment and stuff, and it was just the way it was. And he was a wonderful guy. I can remember when my mom was dying at a very young age. She died when she was 51 of cancer of the bone marrow. Mr. Hogan would come see my mom in the hospital and spend time with her. And when Dad was having his heart problems, he would drive down to Houston. Dad was in the hospital, and make sure he'd hang out with him and just talk to him. So, we always had this category of great players around us of the time. And, you know, they were all self-made because there was no coaches in those days. Most of them were caddies, and they grew up, they taught themselves how to play. But that was, to me, the best education that has helped me in my teaching. And that I'm not a one-trick pony. I don't believe there's one way to do it. I believe that everybody's different. And the way I was taught by my father is you never take away what somebody does naturally, you just make it better. And I think in modern times, people have a swing they like and they try and push everybody into that swing. Well, that's impossible. I mean, I can remember the 10 years I worked with Tiger Woods, and everyone who would come take a lesson say, I want to swing like Tiger Woods. I said, no kidding, so do I. But if we don't jump in his body, how the hell are you going to do that? And so I used to have a line. I said, look, I can't make a racehorse out of a mule, but I can damn sure make a racing mule. Let's make you a racing mule, meaning let's get the best out of your ability, what you have. And that came from just watching all these old timers, how they taught themselves.
Yeah.
And as I go back and say, and you'll hear me say it a lot in this interview, I was getting an education I didn't know I was getting until I got older.
Yeah. Away from the golf, and obviously having the father that you did was must have been an amazing experience as a youngster, especially to have brothers, because having brothers is just great fun. You know, you got your siblings, you're out there, you're with Ben Hogan, you're walking around. It's something out of a storybook, really. But I just want to ask you a little bit about your mum and, you know, that relationship you had with your mum, and obviously terrible to have lost her so young, but were you close with your mum?
I was. Mom was the glue of our family. She was the only one that could roll my dad back. You know, Dad was tough on us, but we deserved it. We needed it. We need to get a kick in the rear end and stuff. And he could be really hard and you know, he was always reminding you that he won the Masters and he has a green jacket and you've never played in one and you've never been to one I didn't take you to, and so on and so forth. And Mom would just say, hey, wait a minute, Claude, you won the Masters, it was a long time ago. How about you back off on that one? And we'd do. Thanks, Mom. My mother died when she was 51 years old. I can remember it was in 1970, and I was playing in second year on the tour. It was then called the Andy Williams San Diego Open at Torrey Pines, and I was playing pretty good. It was the end of 36 holes, and I was pretty hot-headed, and I'd make a fool out of myself a lot of times and have to pay a fine every now and then. And I walked off the 18th green after the second round, and I was under par, playing pretty good. And Jack Tudhill, the head of the rules officials, who was a good friend of our family, I'd known my whole life, he says, you need to come with me. I said, Jack, I didn't do anything wrong today. I'm playing really good. No, you need to come with me right now. No. I said, Jack, I did it. He says, your mother's in Scripps Clinic here in San Diego. They flew her out here. She's not doing well. I'm supposed to bring you to the hospital. Right. So it was a terrible story. We went over to the hospital, and they kept Mom there about 2 weeks, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. And so Dad took Mom back to New York Hospital of Special Surgery, and the first test they did was to check the bone marrow, and the cancer was just riddled in her body. Now they can change your whole bone marrow. In those days, they didn't even know what it was, and they gave her 6 months to live, and she didn't live that long, and it was sad. She was the glue of our family. Billy, the youngest, I think went down a deep rabbit hole for years, because he was young when Mom passed away, and that devastated him. And I'm so proud of him. He's been clean and sober now for 30 years, and he's done a phenomenal job with his life. But that really affected Bill a lot, being the youngest. I kind of left home when I was 18, so I was gone from home then. But yeah, it was a terrible thing.
Yeah, it's terribly sad. How was your relationship with your brothers growing up?
People, when the four of us, Dickie, unfortunately, we lost about 18 years ago. Dick was the third, I'm the oldest, Craig second, and then Dick and Billy. And Dick was kind of the glue of the family. He's the one that kept us all together. But Billy, I'm the oldest, Billy's the youngest. We would play the two middle ones always. And we would play we'd say we were playing $1,000 one-downs, but it was no pay, but we didn't tell anybody that. So we'd be in the grill room like at Wingfoot if we played, the four of us. You owe me $3,000, you lost another $1,000, they damaged it. People were going, boy, you Harmons play for a lot of money. Well, it's just for bragging rights. And I would tell Billy, I said, okay, Bill, you got to play hard the first few holes because I'm going to piss them off. And so, like, first hole, I may have a 4 or 5 footer for par. I just pick it up. I said, what are you doing? I gave it to myself. They said, no, we have to give it to you. I said, I don't give a shit. I pick it up. It's good. I'm not putting it. Yeah. Well, and I did it to him every time, and it would make him so mad every time. And then I'd say, okay, then I'd start playing, and we'd beat the hell out of him. But people would listen to us, and they would think we hated each other because the needles were just beyond belief back and forth, and yet, if any one of us, and I'll tell you a story about me and how Dick saved my life, if any one of us needed anything, the other three were there instantly. But if you listen to us give each other a hard time, you think we hated each other. Right. But yeah, we were very close. And my low point in my life, which I talk about in the book, The Pro, which you have, was 1980. I'd lost a job as a club pro. I was divorced. I was drinking too much. I was gambling. I was broke. I mean, I was going down a road that I wouldn't be alive today. Right. And my brother Dick, he's the third one in the family, he's the one said, get in your car, drive to Houston, you stay with Nancy and I, we'll find you a job, we're gonna get you out of this. They helped bail me out on everything I owed, which I paid them all back afterwards. And I went to work for Dave Marr and Jay Revere building golf courses, which is probably the best thing I could have ever done at that point in time. The thing that saved me in my downtime was I've always been a workaholic. And so I'd never built golf courses before. I didn't know how to do it, and I got where I really loved it. Got involved in about 6 or 7, even a little design work that I helped doing with the guys, and it really saved me. It made me realize how much I missed teaching and being around it, and then I got back into it, and here we are today. And if my younger brother Dick had not done that to me, I guarantee I wouldn't be alive today, because I was going down the wrong path. And it's funny how life deals you different stories, and so I worked my way back and paid everybody off and got my head out of my rear end, and took me a while, but finally here I am.
What had caused you to go down that road?
I don't know. I think it was just a point in time in my life I wasn't happy with myself. I was in a marriage I wasn't happy with, through no fault of either one of us. It just wasn't working, and the war didn't help, to be honest with you. When I came from up there, I was pretty messed up mentally. And in those days, we didn't know we needed help like they try and do today. We didn't know anything about any of the stuff that goes on today. So just was in a bad place. Yeah. And through my own fault, not through anybody else's fault. It was my choosing. I acted the way I acted, which is wrong. But as I say, my brothers helped me and got me back. And Billy and Dick used to tell a great story about being at where they're playing this week that we're filming this in San Antonio. And I wasn't working with anybody on the tour then. I was just, and Billy was there. He caddied for Jay Haas, and Dickie was with Freddie, and I was sitting back in these little bleachers just by myself, just sitting there watching them. And the boys were saying, come out here. And I don't belong out there and stuff. And so they love to tell the story. Yeah, look at you now. You think you're so important. You're the number one teacher for 22 straight years. We remember you sitting on those bleachers. But that's what brothers are supposed to do. Yeah, give each other a hard time. It's just tough love.
That's it, yeah. Siblings, full stop. You know what I like about this room, Butch, as well? It's obviously wildly impressive, but there's a real authenticity about it. I was expecting maybe that since you've had all this success, that you might have come and modernized everything in here, but it's just so charming.
It's just the way it was, and once we started putting all the flags on the wall, and for all various things, Ryder Cups, Solheim Cups, President's Cups, and that's pretty much all major flags over there. There's a couple that aren't. And then, different people's flags. You see a lot of Adams in here, a lot of Phil's in here, different guys. You can see how Adam Scott's signature changed through the years, which is kind of interesting.
Which flag are you most proud of on this wall?
Probably Tiger's first major there, right above the U.S. Amateur one. The reason I asked him for number 3 is because he won 3 in a row. He said, don't you want 18? Because Tiger doesn't keep anything. And so I said, no, I want number 3, but the first one there, and then obviously the 4 in the middle at the top there were all in a row. That's pretty impressive. And then this one was nothing to do with a tour player. This is a guy who's a member at Augusta called Stan Druckenmiller. He's probably the best finance guy in the world. The best. He's made me a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
But he won the Jamboree a few years ago, and he flew out the day before. He had shot 102. The Jamboree at Augusta is their member tournament. That's their major. And he won the Jamboree 5 days later.
Okay.
So Billy Payne was the chairman. He calls me, forget all those guys that have won major. That's your greatest thing. The guy couldn't break 100. And he made 3 birdies today and won the tournament.
No way. That's probably a tougher feat, for sure. That St Andrews one, 2000, that's pretty epic.
I'm proud of Gary for this one too, when he won the Open. And Scotty, when he won the Masters, is something he always wanted, that one there.
That was just the most amazing finish.
Yeah. Phil's win at Muirfield in 2013, he never thought he could win in Scotland. It took me almost 4 years to convince him how to take the ball out of the air because he hits everything so high. And then he went and won the Scottish Open, then he won the Open at Muirfield, probably playing one of the best last rounds in the history to win. So there's a lot of cool ones up here.
Lots of people struggle times in their life. We all go through highs and lows. Some people struggle more than others. What role do you think golf can play in changing people's lives?
Well, I think the game of golf is a lot like life. I mean, you're out there by yourself. You go through highs and lows, adversity and good stuff, and it's how you handle yourself and how you handle situations, the good and the bad, is no different than going through life. I mean, there's ups and downs in life, in everybody's relationships or marriages or whatever type of relationship you have. There's always going to be problems. It's how you handle them, and I think at my age, at 80, I've been through all of that. So I think one of the reasons that Christy and I are so happy now after being together for 25 years now is that we both came from marriages that weren't that good, and my wife used to work for me when she was 20, and now she's just turned 65. And but there's 16 years different in ages, and it was never going to work back in those days, back in the 80s, when I was messed up, and she was a junior at the University of Iowa, and I hired her to work in my pro shop, and I was divorced at the time, and we got together then, but it wouldn't have worked. And then time went on, and both of us were in bad situations and relationships. And in '97, when Tiger won the Masters, I got this phone call from this person, and I knew exactly who it was, and that was kind of the start. And here we are now. Just both of us never been happier. So
that's great. Really pleased.
Life is what you make out of it. We all can feel sorry for ourselves, which I think is the worst thing in the world you could ever do. Because if you're usually in a down situation, in a relationship, business-wise, whatever, it's usually your fault. Our egos and human nature won't let you think of it that way. For me, it was, woe is me, I'm getting a raw deal, No, you're not getting a raw deal, you're acting like a complete horse's ass is what you're doing. And you got what you deserved. And I think sometimes you got to hit rock bottom, and once you hit rock bottom, you go, whoa, wait a minute, this slide can't go any further. I better get my head out of my rear end and make something out of my life. And fortunately, that's what I did, and everything worked out great for me, for my family, for my kids, for my friends, everybody. It's just, we as individuals have to control our lives. We have to take over situations. And golf teaches you how to do that. And you can see it. You can watch how people play, and you can learn a lot about a person when you play golf with them. You can learn about how they are, how they act, how they handle the situations. And I think that's why, for me, golf was my savior. It got me back to realizing that I had an opportunity to do something special and could be better than I was. And I never thought of ending up where I am and the success that I've had. I always just tried to be the best I could be once I got my life back in order. Not thinking I could be number one at anything or I could teach all these major champions. That never entered my mind. I just wanted to be the best that I could be. And at 80 years old, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better at what I do. I like to hear what other people have to say. I read a lot of stuff about golf. I watch videos about Instagram. I watch a lot of your stuff on Instagram, which I like. I have a hard time sleeping in the middle of the night, so I'll wake up at 1, 2, and 3 in the morning, and I'll just go on Instagram and look at golf stuff. That's actually how I started finding all your Instagrams. That's why I know all the people that I was telling you earlier. Oh, I like the one you did with him, and I like the one you did with that.
I know, it's a huge compliment.
And you're good at it. And so I think golf actually, if we think about golf, think about you and your life, what you've been through with your wrist, and your dreams were shattered because of your injuries. And look at where you are now. You're actually doing what you were supposed to be doing. And I'm actually doing what I was supposed to be doing. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't realize it. I wanted to be a player. And I couldn't get out of my own way with my temperament, so that kept me from being that good. But here we are. And so we get there. If you'll persevere, good backswing, big wind up.
Oh, I did the wind up, And then I just didn't know
Not
what
bad.
to do with it.
You got 230 though. You're staying in the high 130s ball speed.
It's funny when you load it, it's such a different feeling because I like got all that. It's like, uh-oh.
Well, it takes time. It takes time to get there.
Yeah.
Because I've seen your swing on Instagram with a driver and you get about to right here. Now you can see this club is getting here. That's the wind up.
Yeah.
So if you only got to here without the wind up and we turn more, that's where it's going to. That's what's helping you get there.
Okay.
Big turn and then really let it go. That's killed. Good swing.
How do you think, what's the quickest way to get more speed in your swing?
I think we have to be, and I'll tell you a little secret that I learned from, I think my rookie year in the tour in '69, I saw Nicholas do a clinic once. And the guy said to him, Jack was really long when he came out. He said, what do you do when you need to hit the ball further, get an extra 5 to 10 yards? He says, well, I take a wider stance. Mm-hmm. So I go from here to here because that drops my spine and my head behind the ball. So I'm already behind it. Then I'm very deliberate. He goes, never go slow because you'll go slow to here. And then he says, I get very deliberate with my wind up to let myself wind up as much as I can. And then I just go as hard as I can going forward.
Right.
But I like the widening the stance because it takes your spine and head behind the ball, which allows you to turn behind it a little more. And then you can just really go from there.
Okay.
But the key was to be deliberate to finish the backswing.
Yeah.
Good swing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yes. I knew it.
Get over here with the camera. Here it is. 141 ball speed, 252 carry. That's what I'm talking about. 2,000 spin from 3,800. 252. No bullshit. All you.
That's unbelievable.
That a girl. And we have it on film.
Dang, that's unreal.
Wow, look at the wind up.
Wow. I didn't think I had this in me anymore because I just thought it was all done.
Oh, that's so good. Watch this speed.
Wow.
That was you, girl. That's right. 252, baby. Oh, Carrie, get you some of that. See the head go?
Yeah.
So, here we are coming into it, and watch the head release. This is the freedom to the finish. If you hold that head back, everything's slowing down past impact. Every click, you're moving it. You're moving it. You're moving it. You're moving it. We're moving, we're moving, we're moving, we're moving. That's so good, it's unbelievable. I mean, look, you haven't, I shudder to think where your head was hitting drivers that we didn't film before.
Yeah.
And look how square the club face is. Mm-hmm. Weights up on the front foot. Everything you did there was good.
Okay, that's awesome. What impresses you about a person? You've met the greatest golfers in the world to presidents, kings of countries, and then just normal people like me and people around the world, because that's what golf does, isn't it? It brings every Tom, Dick, and Harry through the door.
I think for me, I like people.
Okay.
I like being around people. I like hearing what you do, what they do. I've had the opportunity to be around some of the most famous people in the world, some of the wealthiest people in the world, the most average people in the world, and I've learned a little something from every one of them, because I'm fascinated with how they became them. I love talking to some of the great coaches we have, whether it be football or basketball or baseball. I like talking to them about how they do things and how it relates to golf and why I do things this way and how did you figure out this and that. So I'm never afraid to ask the question. I will always ask the question, how did you do this? Why did you do this? And that's another thing I try and tell people. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask the question, well, why did you do that? And so I think as you go on in time, as you get older, you learn, but you never quit learning. It's my father used to have a great saying, and this is true in life and golf. It's what you learn after you think you know it all is the most important things you're going to learn. And I haven't got to near, I was when I was younger. I thought I knew everything about everything, and I was a complete idiot. I was ruining my life and some people around me's lives. And so I'm still learning, man. If I see a guy, for example, if I see a guy on the tour make a swing that I don't know who he is. I go, how the heck did he hit that good shot from that position? That's terrible. But then you watch the swing and you see that the club went this way, the body went this way, something happened, club face squared impact. There's no one swing. There's thousands. Go down to St. Augustine and go to the World Golf Hall of Fame. You're going to see some goofy looking swings in there, but they could all play.
Yeah.
You know what golf is? It's a game of repetition. If you can repeat your golf swing, you can play golf. Life's a game of repetition. If you can repeat what you do and try and make yourself a better person and be a better person, you're going to have a good life. That's why I keep giving the comparison to golf and life.
You're the greatest golf coach alive, and you've coached so many of the best players in the world. Are you really a golf coach, or are you really just a life coach? Are you really just their friend? Where does the line?
I think I'm all of the above.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between teaching and coaching, a big difference. I don't know why, but I've always had the ability to send my players to the first tee, no matter how they were playing, thinking they could beat everybody out there. I don't know where that comes from, and they're all different. I got to know when to kick a guy in the rear end. I got to know when to make him laugh. I got to know when to give him a hug. I got to know when to back off. I got to know when to get in his face. And every one of them's different, so I have to understand the players I work with, personalities, and I've had great success in doing that. Maybe it was from my shortcomings or whatever. I don't know why or how I've incorporated that into what I do. But when I did my last video and we interviewed all the best players that I've had the opportunity to teach, when they asked Tiger that, and that was his answer, he says that Butch just has a way of sending you to the first tee in a major championship. Whether you don't think you're playing well or not, when you go to that first tee, he's going to make you believe you can beat everybody. And see, I couldn't make myself believe that because I was a negative Nelly. You know, everything was, if it was wrong, and it was me, and I wasn't any good, and I learned from that. The other thing is, I think from the golf standpoint, having grown up in the family I grew up with, everything I've seen in my life has obviously made me better at what I do. God gifted me with a great eye. I see things. To back up a little, I'm a nightmare to go to a movie with. My wife hates to go. I will tell you everything wrong in every scene. So look, did you see that blue car just passed 3 different times in 2 different directions?
Right.
Look at his tire. It was over here in that fight. Now it's straight. He never straightened it. Look at the sweat on his shirt. Now there's no sweat on his shirt. And my wife will go, will you shut up? I'm trying to watch the movie. I said, well, I'm just pointing out, I don't give a damn about the differences, honey. I want to watch the movie. And I'll just start saying it because I see it.
Yeah, you're continuity
And
expert.
it's just my, like I said, I got no filter. It just comes out. But I see all these things. I see, if you could show me a scene and they move from the person and back to the person, I can show you that this collar is different than it was a minute ago. It's a little more out than it was a minute ago. His arm's in a different place. And Christy will go, please shut up. I'm trying to watch the movie. Well, when I look at a golf swing, I'll see 100 things at once. I mean, like when I was watching you warm up, I've already saw you had a 10-finger grip. You didn't have to tell me you had a 10-finger.
Yeah.
I see your grip, your stance, your posture, your alignment, your ball position, your path of your swing, your release of the club, too early, too late, where the club exits, what your body does. I just see all that. And then the one thing that's wrong in the swing just jumps out at me. I call everybody has a cancer in their swing. The one thing consistently that keeps them from playing well. And if you fix that, 4 or 5 other things fall right into place. Like we only talked about a couple things today, but 5 or 6 other things fell into place because we did it that way. And so God gifted me with an eye to see things like that help. It's why I get so upset with these movies. I'm saying, who the heck is fact checking all these scenes here? This is terrible.
You just made our editor's life a lot harder.
Well, they get it. They know exactly what I mean. Yeah. People in here.
You got some decent names up there, Ben.
Oh, you think?
This catalogue of swings, this must be probably the most valuable thing in here.
So if you look at who you just talked about, Adam Scott.
Yeah.
Look at the difference in where his spine is.
Oh, wow.
Versus where yours is, okay?
Yeah.
And what happens is, in Adam, you can see your head's actually working backwards. His is actually working forward. Now, each click of the camera, watch the head rotate as the body rotates.
Wow.
Okay, so if we put him there,
Yeah.
and I put you here, you're having a hard delivery. You've actually gone backwards, but he's actually gone forward.
Wow.
And this is where the thinness and the mishits come on your shots. So what we're going to see now, with a little better turn, we'll be able to have the feeling that you can go forward.
It's like, I mean, I'm thinking of Annika with that way she moves her head.
I
through
love
the
it.
ball.
I love it. That's the best. You talk about Annika, I'll show you the all-time.
I think because it's funny with my
Okay,
head.
so
Whoa.
wait till you see this. So this was, if we look at this, 1999, he was the number one player in the world, David Duval.
Yeah, yeah.
People say, how do you know it was 99? I said, well, look, Tiger's only won one major. There's only one flag there. And they were both here getting ready to go to Kapalua for the Tournament of Champions. And if you remember, this was 97. Tiger breaks the record, wins by 12, and we changed the swing.
Right.
Because the club was a little across the line, didn't like the club face position. And he wanted to do it all at one time, and I said, well, it's going to take time. Well, Tiger only won once in 98. Then he went 99, 2000, whatever. But this is, I'm a great believer in releasing the head and not holding the head back. This is the exception to the rule. This is this is worse than Annika's.
Wow.
You're not even looking at it.
Oh my gosh.
Not even looking at it.
What?
And look how that impact position. Look how much more forward he is.
What?
Yeah.
Is he looking at out the side of his eye?
No. The ball's going to be there.
Okay.
The ball's going to be there when he comes back down. He knows where it is. But it's a head release of emotion allows the freedom. Now, that's exaggerated. I'm not telling you you have to do that. That's
Okay.
not. We're not saying that.
That's
But
so
I
cool.
want to get away from this hanging back and going forward.
Okay.
Come on over.
That sounds good.
How about that?
That's unbelievable.
Annika was beautiful. And what it does, think about it this way. Think about if this stays back here, this is as far as I can go, okay?
Yeah.
And it's going to promote a little bit of this. Well, if I let this goes way out here. So this motion with the head staying back going to you only goes that far. If I let the head release and go, look how much more I stay with this club in front of me down the line, and it doesn't let it get over there. And it's not that we're trying to do anything except watch the ball leave.
Okay.
You're just watching it go with that better turn going back.
Which player that you've coached, Butch, has revealed the most about yourself?
Wow, that's interesting. I've never really thought of that. Probably Greg. Greg was just. Greg Norman's one of the greatest players the game's ever seen. He won't get the credit for it because he only won 2 majors, and the disaster that he created or someone else created against him in majors. You think about it, this guy won over 80 tournaments around the world. He was the best driver of a golf ball with a wooden driver I'd ever seen. But because he had so many other businesses, his wine business, his sod business, his business, if we only had 2 hours to work, 3 hours to work, if I flew to Florida and stayed with him in his house and we were going out to the Medalist to work, it was 100% business. And he made me so much better at how I do my job when I had 4, 5, 6 players, taught me how to budget my time, to make sure I'm 100% vested in when the time comes that you only have so much time with each player. And so Greg really made me better at my job than I think I was before that, just because I learned from him on how he budgeted his time and everything he did. It's too bad he doesn't get the credit he deserves, because God, he was good. He was, nobody could drive a ball with a persimmon driver like he could. He could put it at 300 yards on any side of the fairway he needed to. He had a phenomenal short game that people don't realize. But I learned more about myself from being with him, and he actually created that in me. I learned it from him, and that helped me tremendously the rest of my career.
You must have seen the game change a hell of a lot, Butch. You played golf with Ben Hogan, and now you're coaching the stars of the present and the future, the likes of Ricky Fowler, Tommy Fleetwood. These guys are leading the way in the men's professional game as we know it now. What's been the biggest change that you've seen in that time?
Equipment.
Right.
And the other thing people don't talk about, the agronomy of golf courses.
Okay.
how much better the greens and tees and fairways are. If you look at, say, when I played back in the late 60s, early 70s, or even going back to my father, you know, the greens were about 8 on the step meter, 10 on the step meter. Now they're 13 and 14. The advent of the new golf balls, and especially drivers, you've had to change the way you taught when equipment changed, because we used to want to see a big reverse C coming into it with a persimmon head and a soft ball to launch the ball in the air because it spun too much. Now we want people on top of it to launch it as high as we can with as little amount of spin on it. The drivers and the balls are built for that to happen, so you had to change your approach on, you know, if you go from here to here, there's a lot of things that have to go on to get you there. Mm-hmm. And you and I talked a little bit about that today when you were practicing. And so you have to be open-minded. And the other thing is, I see too many what I call one-trick pony teachers. Well, everybody do this. I had success with this guy. He won tour tournaments. Anybody who comes to me, we're going to do that. You can't do that. That's not possible. You can't be a one-trick pony. You have to. There's just no one way to swing a golf club. Mm-hmm. And so I see too much of that today in a lot of instructors, because they had success with one guy and then everybody goes to him. And I've had guys come to me and they said, yeah, I went to him, but he thought I was so-and-so because he's having me do the same thing. It doesn't work for me. And I said, okay, let's go back and work on what I know you can do. And I think it's made me better at my job by not being a one-trick pony. I mean, like I said, everybody would come and say, I want to swing like Tiger Woods. Well, no kidding, I'd like to swing like Tiger Woods, but if we don't get in his body, how the hell are we going to swing like him?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get the best out of what you got, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. I see all these beautiful flags, but there's a couple of gaps here. Butch, there's a room for a few more. I can see a gap.
Yeah, I need one of my goals is to get Ricky and Tommy on the major wall.
Okay.
Just because they deserve to be there, and they've both been very close and had their opportunities, and so that's what we're working for, to try and win some majors. That's kind of what you're remembered for in your life nowadays. It used to be how many tournaments you won. Now it's major wins, and when you win one, people can say the second one's the hardest one to win, because then you can prove it's not a fluke that you won one.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope will be your legacy?
You know, I just think that, and I said it a minute ago, and I mean it, I just think that I'd like to be looked at as a person that worked really hard at his craft. Yes, I was very successful at it, but that he never really ruined anybody. Everybody that came to him got better, because there's been guys that have gone to instructors that were ruined, their careers were ruined, and I don't feel like I've ever done that to anybody, and I'm very proud of that. And I would just say, yes, I learned a lot from Butch Harmon, but boy, we had fun doing it, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not going to be here that much longer anyway at 80. I keep telling my wife I'm going to 100, but who knows?
You got 110 in your book. It's been an absolute joy, and thank you so much for your time today.
It's been my pleasure, girl. You're the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.